This video illustrates the steps required to install a standard or extended mount on a roof and assumes you have already selected your best mounting option and location. These are the items that you will use while installing the standard roof mount: the universal mount and bolt package, the short and long monopoles with their respective bolt packages. Note that these come in different boxes, and bishop tape. Be sure to cut 3 different pieces of bishop tape, 1 for the universal mount and 2 for both of the monopole foot plates. Now that you have all the materials ready, you can begin the installation process. First, identify the living and non-living areas. Make sure that the bottom of the mount is up at least 3 shingles from the edge of the roof to allow adequate space for monopole placement. If this is not possible, reach out to your local POC for approval. Additionally, you'll want to consider the direction of the prevailing wind in order to place the long monopole in a position to brace against the wind. You can ask the customer in which direction does the wind typically blow, or use your best judgment. The standard roof mount requires that both the mast foot and the monopoles be installed into rafters. Locate the center of the 2 rafters that the 2 monopoles and mast foot plate will be installed into. Using a stud finder is the easiest way to find a rafter. You can also look for nail heads and measure back to your desired location. Nails are usually on 24-inch or 16-inch centers. Then you'll know where the rafter is located. A third option is to gently tap on the roof surface until you hear and feel a solid thud. The mast foot is secured using 6 bolts, 2 center bolts that are secured into a rafter, and 4 corner bolts that are secured through the roof surface. It's best to install the top center bolt first. Once you've determined the location of the rafter, mark the drilling location for the top center hole of the footplate. You will use 3-inch long by 5 16-inch diameter lag bolts for the 2 center holes. Be sure to drill only 2.5 inches deep for the 3-inch lag bolt. You want to leave about a ½ inch of material at the end of the hole for the lag bolt to bite into. Then, pre-drill the hole using a 7/32 or 3/16 drill bit. Apply bishop tape to the bottom of the footplate. Cover the base completely to minimize the potential for the tape to be pulled or twisted out by the lag bolt. Covering the base completely also provides increased stability. Mount the footplate with the first lag bolt using an impact driver or drill. When using a drill, use the drill torque setting that will drive the lag bolt, but will not cause injury to yourself or damage to the customer's property. Tighten the center lag bolt enough so that it is snug, but not tight. This will allow for some movement to align the bottom center hole with the rafter. Now, level the footplate by lining it up to the edge of the shingles. With the footplate level, you can now pre-drill the 5 remaining holes. Apply pressure on the footplate so the bishop tape will not fold onto itself. Install the remaining 3-inch bolt in the bottom center hole. Install the 4 2-inch long bolts in the corner holes. Next, fully tighten the remaining lag bolts, including the top center bolt, using a ½ inch socket and ratchet. As impact driver and drill torque settings vary, using a ratchet and socket, or ratcheting wrench, allows you to ensure the bolts are properly tightened. Finally, level the mast. When using the bubble level inside the mast, it must first be removed and reseated to ensure it will provide an accurate reading. Then, verify the mast is level and plumb using a magnetic torpedo level. Finally, tighten all 4 of the mast lockdown bolts. Then, double-check to verify the mast is level and plumb. For roof mounting using the standard and extended mast, 2 monopoles are required. 1 forward-facing monopole and 1 side-facing monopole. The extended mount is approximately 1 foot taller than the standard mount and requires 2 long monopoles to provide adequate support. The first step is to make sure the pipe clamps are loose enough so they slide over the mast. Next, slide the clamp of the short or forward-facing monopole over the mast, followed by the long or side-facing monopole. The clamp of the short monopole should be under the bend of the mast. Make sure the collar of the long monopole is at least 5 inches from the top of the mast to allow room for the aisle. Locate the center of the stud that the long or side-facing monopole footplate will be mounted into using a stud finder, measuring the nails, or using the tapping method. Swing the long or side-facing monopole over the mast so that the footplate is over the rafter, and mark where to drill for the two 3-inch bolts into the rafter. Pre-drill the 2 holes. Apply bishop tape to the bottom of the monopole footplate and install the bolts. Next, install the short or forward-facing monopole's foot into the same rafter as the mast footplate. Be sure to install the short or forward-facing monopole's foot so that the monopole will end up as perpendicular to the mast as possible. Also note that the 3-inch lag bolts should only go into the rafter, so you'll be installing both bolts into the top and bottom holes of the long slot on the monopole footplate. As a reminder, be sure to pre-drill the holes and apply bishop tape to the monopole feet before securing them to the rafter. Tighten the long monopole clamp above the bend of the mast. Tighten the short monopole clamp below the bend. Next, verify the mast is still plumb and level. Adjust if necessary. Note that the center monopole clamp must be tightened last. If you tighten the center monopole clamp before the ends of the monopoles, the mast could be pulled out of plumb, or the center clamp bolts will be pulled loose when you tighten the monopole mast clamps. Instead, tighten the lock-down bolts on both monopole footplates using either a 1/2-inch wrench or 1/2-inch ratchet and socket. And lastly, tighten the center clamp bolts on both monopoles. For the extended mast, both monopole clamps will be above the bend. As with the standard mast, make sure that the front-facing monopole is as perpendicular to the mast as possible once installed. Finally, double-check that the mast is still plumb.